KDCL Media, the pride of Internet radio for Deep Creek Lake, Garrett County, Maryland, and the world.
Consciousness. Is like the ocean. The H2O Network, purveyors of passion, seeking to expand human consciousness from the deep depths of the universe of your soul.
Greetings, family, and welcome to After Dark with the H2O Network and KDCL Media, the pride of Internet radio. I welcome everybody in the chat room, everybody on the phone lines, and to everyone who will be listening to this via the archives later on. Family, make sure that you check out the H2O Network and the KDCL Media profile page on Blog Talk Radio. You can download us via iTunes and take us anywhere you go. So if you go to the profile page, you have an RSS feed and an iTunes button. Click that iTunes button, and you can take us on the go. Also, family, if you're a part of our Facebook networks, you can also click on the particular show, that link, click on the link, and under the play button, you have three options, and one of them is to download any particular show. So you can download these shows individually as well. Also, family, make sure that you check out the H2ONetwork.weebly.com. That's our website, the H2ONetwork.weebly.com, and also KDCLmedia.weebly.com. Also, family, you know that we're percolating on Facebook, so type into your search engine DIANUNEZ. That is me, Dia Nunez. I have two profiles, friend them both, a lot of things percolating down. Same thing with KDCL Media. Type into your search engine KDCL Media, and you'll be able to find KDCL Media on Facebook, along with the HO Network and our fan pages and everything that's percolating as far as CCK, Center for Community Knowledge, which this is the Center for Community Knowledge broadcast this evening on how to select the godparent. Very, very, very much important. And to make sure that you keep up to date with CCK and what's going on, because, you know, the HO Network, KDCL Media, and CLBA, Church of the Lukumi Babalu Aye, with Oba Ernesto Pichardo in Miami, our beloved elder, we are now under the same umbrella and percolating in the ethers with education and knowledge and all of these things. So along with our profile pages, our fan pages individually as stations, we also have the CCK fan page, the CLBA Community Farm, of course, the Adimu Network, where you can find some nice little delicious delectables for Orisha. And also, family, make sure you keep your eyes on the burner for Media's Miami Kitchen. I tell you, she be burning them pots up, y'all. Burning them pots up. Tons of wonderful information and recipes, if you will. And I know I have my sister on the line, Miss Paula from KDCL Media. Hey, girlfriend, how you doing?
Oh, hanging in there. I'm ready to dig up Alexander Graham Bell and strangle him for inventing the telephone today, but other than that, we're good.
I hear you, girlfriend. I hear you. It's been, I have to say that since 2012, since the beginning. Why? I shouldn't even say even with 2012, since the beginning of last year. We've been so darn busy, it's not even funny. But this is all wonderful and good because we're, you know, we're being the conduits for our elders all across the country, across the world, not just with Oba Ernesto Pichardo, but with artists, with musicians, with authors. I mean, we're really crazy right now. But it's all good. These are all beautiful things. And I think tonight's show, Miss Paula, is probably one of the most important shows that we've ever done, how to select a godparent.
Yeah, absolutely, because, I mean, that's like the biggest stumbling block in the world for anybody that's interested in this tradition, unless you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Absolutely. And even the information that's being given this evening actually goes beyond our tradition. It's basically how to select an elder and a godparent in any tradition because, we always talk about Iwapele and certain characteristics and things of this nature. And, as we're percolating in this reality, 2012 and beyond, more information is coming out. More people are taking their studies, their metaphysical, ritualistic type of studies very seriously. And you really have to have an elder that matches your personality, what you're seeking. You really have to map out what your expectations are for a godparent, what their expectations are. And if that doesn't map out, then you need to move on and keep it moving because this is your consciousness you're dealing with and you're molding and you're trying to grow. And if you're with people that can't help you in that endeavor, you really need to move on. Because let me tell you, the things that I know now, if I knew back then, before I made Ocha, almost a decade ago, honey, I would be in a different place right now. So this is very poignant and important information, to say the least.
Yeah, and you think about you say things like that, and it's like, okay, but what would I have missed if I did it different? That's always
that's very, well, what? It's funny you say that because it's very interesting that you say that, and you make a very poignant point. There's also another aspect of the pie, the osobo that I experienced as a yawo and as a priest dealing with the iworo and individuals and their craziness. Actually, it is actually elevated my consciousness. It's elevated in the way I perceive certain things. And if you don't take the side of victim, if you will, it actually is a good opportunity to teach you about the psychology of people, the psychology of yourself, what you're seeking as far as a student. It's like almost like this being the sorcerer's apprentice, that movie with Nicolas Cage. And, you know what I'm saying? I mean, literally, it's like almost, you're doing your Harry Potter thing, trying to find a good mentor and things of this nature. All of these things are very important. The bad, we have to remember that the osobo that we experience in this tradition when it comes to mentors is also it's also an ide. It's like a paradox because it can teach you a lot about many things if your heart is open and you're willing to actually see. So
it really is. It's a double-edged sword. It's like, while you're sitting there beating your chest and tearing your hair out over the osobo, you have to stop and think about, well, what am I learning and what would I have missed, or who would I have missed that's become important or instrumental in my life if everything would have been ire.
Ache, honey, Ache, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today if it wasn't for that osobo. You better work, mother. I wouldn't have been able to meet my twin, Miss Paula of KDCL Media. So I bless the osobo of my crazy, Yawo life when I was a Yawo many eons ago. It's like this paradox. It was yesterday and it wasn't yesterday, but I'm very grateful. But I'm going to get our elder Oba Ernesto on the line. The telephone is ringing. I know he has his cake and his cafe cubano by his side.
Well, sure he does.
Of course. And I know you're on the line, Oba. Bendición, Oba.
Blessings. My cafe cubano was perfect, actually. With a lot of foam on it. Really delicious.
Wouldn't dare be anything else.
I'm ready for you, Pete.
Exactly.
Ready. Now I'm ready for this program now.
Do you have any sweets, Oba? What are the sweets for tonight? Because family, if you guys don't already know, like, we have this ritual and we totally, tease Oba. It's cafe cubano, and it's sweets, because we all have a sweet tooth. So, every day we know that, when we're talking to Oba, it's going to have, cafe cubano or some type of fabulous sweet that Nivia's Miami Kitchen, whipped up. So what's the sweet tonight? What's on the menu?
Well, my Nidia made a wonderful chocolate cake, which I hadn't had for a while.
Nice.
So that'll keep me going between my chocolate cake and the café cubano. Hey, I'm ready, you know?
Exactly, and we got the candles blazing, so we.
What? Did you light candles for this program?
All the time, all the time, all the time.
All the time. Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly. We got the Eglon, candles lit. We got the Orisha candles lit. You know what I'm saying?
No, I think you all need to do is establish your own candle factory. Okay. This is crazy. Light it up, light it up, light it up. My God.
I wish. Oh my God! Please don't get me started. So, Obot, tonight this is me and Miss Paula were having a little tit for tat before we pulled you on the air. How to select a godparent, and I was saying that this is probably going to be one of the most important shows that we've ever done. I mean, we're doing a lot of wonderful things, but this is very monumental because you're always talking about the elders and their role. You're always talking about the new guard and their role and expectations, and you've touched on this previously. So where does one go to select a godparent? How does one strategically plan for this?
Well, you're right. You know, it is the starting point actually of the conversation. Since I've been out in the academic world since the 70s and long track record of public speaking in that arena, I would say to you that the most frequently asked question up front by students has always been, how does a person that has no knowledge of the culture and of this faith and is not part or is in no way embedded into the religious community per se and grows up within it, that it's literally an outsider, that's seeking a new spiritual path or just simply exploring and trying to find their spirituality in some form, they're exploring. And then they go, well, how do we know that, where do we go? And how do we know that the person that's claiming to be a priest or a priestess of any particular tradition, how do we know if they're for real and if this is the right person for me? And I often would answer, well, the first thing we need to do is we need to teach some basic common sense guidelines here that we need to present publicly, some pointers here. That will at least set you in the right direction. That's how you begin. First, knowing what to ask and what to look for. And it is applicable not just to our Lukumi tradition, but I would say to any of the faith systems out there that are not institutionalized per se, Christian organized churches, but those that in this society actually move away, don't find their place in any of the Judeo-Christian traditions, and then go out to explore and find their spirituality elsewhere and connect into something, And so, of course, you have those that are get there by way of reading esoteric books or other things. There's many avenues, right, that lead to finding one's self in a place where it is the most adequate for each person. And so you're right, we've been talking about many different topics for quite a long time now, but we've never really addressed this fundamental question, how does one find the right person? Who is that religious spiritual professional person that best fits what I'm looking for, right? It's always that question. If we look at our tradition, but our tradition is not the only one, we find that more and more I've seen that exciting situation over the years. What we're finding is more people have left mainstream religion for something else without any guidance, without any guidelines, and so they're out there getting bumps and bruises, where otherwise at least they had some fingers they could then, they're armed with something that they can go out with and start getting what they're dealing with and who they're dealing with. If that's the case, then they would have avoided an awful lot of victimization, if you will. We're talking about religious systems, indigenous traditions, and what have you, that are not institutionalized. And that was always the students' second concern. Well, if they're not institutionalized, how do we know? How can we be sure? There's always those common sense doubts. If we look within our own tradition, we find that because there isn't really that set public guideline, unless people visit Church of the Lukumi Babalwaye website, there is a page there that we have had posted for quite some time now that presents in writing the guidelines and gives people some tools to work with. And that's the kind of conversation we want to have tonight. But in radio, if you will, we've never really discussed it, and I think it's important to do so. So that's what we are.
Indeed, I think it's very important. And also, this is one of the things that I realized in my own quest when I was in Aleo, that one should really also look at the real lives, if you will, outside of ceremony, of the individuals that you're seeking as mentorship. And one of the things I think is key, and not always, because that would be painting a wide brush, but how are they with their families, with their wives? And to give you an example of what I mean, I had a godparent who didn't even speak or acknowledge her own living children. That was a red flag to begin with. If one is not in harmony and balance with their own kids, now we're not talking about the idyllic fairy tale Walt Disney version family. We're talking about people who take their familial life very seriously, their married life very seriously. I didn't really look at that, and there were a lot of issues with this individual in her life with her own children. She hadn't even spoken to her own children in many, many years. Family, that's a red flag, because if a person can't do that with their own children that they gave birth to, if you will, through the womb, they're not going to treat you any different. So you really have to look at how, not only how these people live in their spiritual priestly life, but how they take those pillars of principles into their familial life, their real life, how they deal with people. Because if it's not in balance or not right, those are red flags, because, you can't compartmentalize who you are spiritually. There is no compartmentalization. It is all the same. So if there's a dysfunction in their family life and the way that they treat people, the way that they do business, then to me that's a red flag. And that was a red flag for me, that at the time I guess I was in denial, or I ignored it. I don't know. But, it was a huge learning lesson for me.
Yeah. Well, what in our tradition, we can point to three categories that if you will, that provide religious services, but from three different lenses. Okay, and this is something that nobody ever really talks about. The first one is what I coined as quick fix spirituality. The second one is religious counselor. And the third one would be literally choosing a godparent relationship. Three different stages, three very different perspectives. usually, I would say that overwhelmingly, those that are in quest of a new religious perspective, if you will, in their lives, are attracted or may be attracted and find themselves in our tradition initially in a very superficial way. One either is because they had one experience where they were exposed to the religious art. Another is because they were exposed to the religious music and dancing, and that became interesting and rather a magnet, if you will. Others that via friends, acquaintances that have explored or are in one of these three stages involved in our tradition will refer the person, which is usually the most common, I would say to you. It's the word of mouth, because in our tradition, the old way, not what I'm seeing today, we were always principled on non-religious proselytizing. That was always the policy, not to proselytize. The belief is that every head, every person will find their place in time. Their own spiritual guides will find their place in time. So proselytizing was something that was never seen in a very positive light among the elders of our faith. This is not what we have today. So quick fix, let's say, commonly as someone that you know and have some relationship with, a friendship with, or trust level that is dabbling in these religious practices and belief systems. And let's say the person feels comfortable wherever, person A feels comfortable in the place that they are visiting and having these casual religious experiences. They usually, the big issue there is credibility, and that is they're going in for divination. And the priest or priestess is being sufficiently accurate to describe the mundane and spiritual issues of person A, and therefore becomes more and more convincing. And then this person talks about their new experiences with a friend or what have you, and at some point the friend may also be moved to go in for a consultation, and this is how it starts. So at that level, we have to look at truly what are the definable, if you will, expectations of person A and B when they go to have one of these services by a priest or a priestess. What's motivating them? So the priest and priestess usually never knows until divination takes place, and then you get a sense of what's happening in the person's lives and what's moving them to be there. What happens with this, though? What happens with this is, let's start with the quick fix category. Well, the quick fix is people that are not looking for any continuity, any systemic approach towards their spirituality. They're really not being serious about it. It's playing religion for a weekend kind of a thing. It's like, I want to experience going to a spiritual retreat somewhere for a weekend and see what that's like. That's kind of like the mindset. So they come into these religious divination sessions, get a consultation, get a reading, and their true, convincing, mundane issues rise in this consultation. They're addressed appropriately, and that becomes convincing. So let's say that the person needs to address one primary life issue that is significantly important to pay attention to. And they can be helped not only by some modification of human conduct, but also, and for that I mean a temporary modification, not any particular long-term or internalized modification. This is an external, superficial, temporary exchange of behavior, if you will. And it may be including some kind of ritual involvement. So here we go, they're told, let's say if it's a combination of both, they're saying, okay, listen, you need to behave in this particular manner for the next week, or when speaking to this person that you're having a problem with, if it's work-related or along the lines of sociability, this is what you need to do. If it's on the line, if the primary issue is somewhere along the lines of economics, then this is what you need to do from a human level of things. If it's health, listen, you may need to go to the doctor and get a complete blood test. You need to look at that because there's something that's not right there. So it requires the human action. And then the spiritual, hey, we'll take care of that here. Let's, we need to do some kind of ritual to help you in terms of the spiritual part of the person. Well, that's great. What people are never told is that you do this one ritual, and no one ever just has one issue. We are a bag of issues. Those that are directly generated by ourselves and our lifestyles or what have you, and those that are incoming, that when we go out every morning onto the world, that's generated and it comes towards us and impacts our peace, our health, and our prosperity, those three categories. So what do? The easiest thing is, okay, priest or priestess, what do we need to do to fix this one issue that I'm concerned with? Well,
you are now in the host queue.
We need to buy these things. We need to do these things. Okay, what is this going to cost? You plan it. You come in the day and time or whatever, bring all the things that you're going to need, or you just give the priest the money, and the priest will go out and purchase all your materials and have everything set up and ready for you. You just walk off the street and get your ritual done. And that's it. Done. You're finished. You came in, you got your thing done, you heeded to the advices, and you're on your merry way. That's it. No attachments, no internalized process where you need to meditate and internalize anything in particular. It's totally superficial. So it's like going over to going to a grocery store or going into a retail store and buying something. It's your religiosity at that point is being treated as a commodity, as a commodity, not as really as a spiritual and transformational path. You're just there to fix a problem. You're not there to internalize, to meditate, to learn, or anything. And it's like, I'm just here to buy gas because I'm running out of gas. Okay, and that's it. So if we use the example of a vehicle, and you're just there, you got a flat tire, and then you're running out of air on the tire, and then you go to the mechanic or a little shop somewhere that doesn't have a mechanic, so you can't change your tire. And they go, okay, fine. I still fix this flat. Here's a can, and pay me for the can, and I'll go out there and I'll get your tire with the sealant, and maybe that'll hold. You see? The point is that nothing guarantees that once you start driving your car, how many miles you're going to get out of to fix it flat. You don't know if your tire is going to blow up after that. You don't know anything. You're just confident that, hey, problem fixed. Is the immediate here and now resolve that. So what happens is that over and over, what I find in that kind of setting is that people engage this very much, like I said, in a quick fix manner. It's very easy. It's casual contact. Don't have to think. Don't have to do much. Just agree, buy your stuff, get your ritual done, and it goes away. Bottom line, that kind of religious contact, that kind of spiritual approach is only concerned with that one issue. It's not addressing anything else that's coming up the line. That's number one. And number two, it creates a sense of magical solution where you're purchasing magical solution. So that the human is literally passing the buck, if you will, because they're paying for a service. I'm paying the priest. The priest is now 100% responsible for fixing my problem. All I have to do is come and get the ritual done. As soon as the ritual is done, I walk out the door and keep on living in the same way, with the same issues, with the same surroundings. Nothing needs to change. The person doesn't need to change anything, whether it's human or anything else, or their environment. Nothing. Nothing is required of them. So they go in and they're paying for a magical solution and passing the buck. So it's like buying a product, right? Going to the store and buying a product. And, if by the time you go home and you use the product and you don't like the product, or the product is does not meet your expectations of quality or whatever, then you're uncomfortable. Then you've got something to complain about, and you voice it in terms of, listen, don't go to that priest or priestess because I got scammed. They took my money. I went there. They told me what my problem was. They charged me so much money. I paid the guy or the woman, and hey, you know what? I'm still having problems. So it becomes a circular. It's like chasing your tail in a circle, because all you're doing is passing the buck and paying for a service that you have to do nothing more with it other than pay the service. And what gets the person to pay for the service in the first place? Is as long as the priest or priestess during the divination session expressed themselves in a style, in a form, and in a way that was linguistically and philosophically convincing enough, then the person becomes all trusting and is willing to buy the product, because all they have to do is put out the money. Because they're passing, that already puts them in that mindset of, this person is selling me something or getting that work. So it becomes trusting in that regard. And it's very casual and very easy to do. So let us assume that the person, under the quick fix system, the person comes in and you know what? Their magical solution brought forth deliverance, problem solved, okay? Or solved at least to a satisfactory level. That person is going to start saying to other friends, hey, you got a problem or whatever, and then here comes this referral, right? This is how the priest or priestess now starts acquiring other people within person A's social network. So the person, the next issue that comes up, the person considers it. If it's important enough, get motivated and go back again to that same priest or priestess for more. For more, let me pay for magical solutions. There's no responsibilities. All I have to do is just come in here, a little while, get a consultation. It's all going to be great conversation, feel me good, intellectually satisfied here. That's it. That's all it takes. So it's really the closest thing that I can correlate this thing to would be going to a main religious institution and talking to a priest, talking to your pastor, you know, or the religious counselors in those institutions. It becomes very similar to that. You come in, you dump your concern, you get advice in return. You act or you don't act based on the advices that were provided by that religious counselor. And that only took a little while, and you're gone. It's almost as if you went, you were all stressed out or whatever, and you went and sat down with a social worker or a psychologist for a little while and presented your concerns, and the psychologist sits back, he listens, formulates towards your conversation, throws it back at you, and advises you in some understandable way that helps you kind of move away from your psychological confusion, organizes where you're at a little bit, gives you a better understanding of your situation and things to consider, and provides some options for you. And so you went in there for that therapy for about an hour or two, paid the man or the woman, and you walked out of there, and it's back to, I feel good. I feel that I got something done. Mm-hmm. So it gives you that good feeling. It feels right. It feels right because someone else listened, and someone else is taking on the responsibility to resolve my problem. It's going to get done. I took my car to the mechanic. I don't have to understand the car. I don't understand why my car can't make a problem. When I go and pay the mechanic, and I ask the mechanic a couple of questions, the mechanic is going to answer me in some satisfactory way, answer my questions, and I'm going. I'm start the car, and I'm gone. There's no ties. There's no responsibilities. There's no religious internalization. There's no internal transformation of one's spirituality, or one's not only spirituality, but how that connects to every human being in their lives. So nothing needs to change. You buy magical solution. That, in a nutshell, is how I define the most common contact, which is quick fix. Quick fix. Make sense to you?
No, it does, absolutely. We're in a quick fix nation in every aspect of our lives, including our spiritual lives, if you will. So it's not surprising that our spiritual lives are a microcosm of the cosmos.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I'm hungry. I'm hungry. Okay, how do I fix this? I'm driving by a fast food chain. I don't care that what I'm buying is poison. It's going to fill my stomach. It tastes good, and I'm done.
Indeed.
And what's taking so long in this drive-through? This be a drive-through.
And it's funny, I'm going, these stories. You're a good storyteller, Oba, because when you tell these stories, I go back to my Eleo years. And we get so bamboozled and bedazzled by the magicry, the magicry of what diviners do and what they tell you and what Egun does. And that's like, the anchor that pulls people in. And in all actuality, it can get you in a lot of trouble if you get pulled into that box and you don't open up the box and look at everything in the picture.
Right. You're just going by that initial contact and exchange, superficial exchanges with that priest or priestess, or and it's really a character exchange.
Mm-hmm.
It's more about, do I like what the person's house looks like? What does this house feel like? Do I like this person? It's a new person. It's a new encounter. It's like a new friendship that you're engaging. So you have all your curiosity levels on steroids, and that becomes part of the psychological attraction.
Indeed, indeed. And not only that, when you talk about new relationships, when I got made, the individual that made me, which was a big mistake, she was my best friend. And I tell you, sometimes friendship and spiritual evolutionary power does not go together. That may not be the best thing for you, family.
No, but, actually, it becomes very twisted in most instances because, you're going from friendship to quick fix, dabbling into this arena, and then overnight you're jumping into a godparent relationship. No longer is the friendship the reason why you met this person and the reason why you like this person, and whatever is sustaining the reality that's sustaining that friendship relationship is going to be impacted when you turn that into a godparent relationship.
Yes, indeed, absolutely.
Nobody talks about that.
Indeed, and that was the biggest lesson that I learned. But I'm glad I learned.
Well, those lessons are always good, like you said,
Oh, totally. They're
every lesson is a lesson. It's something that we gain. It's knowledge that we gain. For better or for worse, but it's knowledge and experience. Absolutely.
So what you talked about on other shows, you skim the surface on this, and we're going to go back to this whole expectation of godparents and godchild and the alignment of that, not the delusion and idealistic Disney form of that. I'm talking about real expectation and being able to draw those lines and being very, very clear. Talk about that, Oba, because that's important.
Well, the godparent relationship is totally and completely different to what we're talking about. Now we're talking a different role play, if you will. It is no longer like in the case that you're citing of friendship where there's equal footing going on here and total free will. Once you get into a godparent relationship, the dynamics of that are radically different. Now this person is called a godparent because that person now assumes the authority role, or the role of authority in a spiritual context. You're entering a world of protocols. You're now entering a systemic world of rituals and ceremonies. Now you're entering this whole complex that is entirely and completely radically foreign to the dynamics of a good friend relationship. Totally different. Now all of a sudden the friend now becomes your religious mentor, your religious spiritual counselor. Now this person is the translator, if you will, of the information that you need to have and know to transform your life. Because now as a godchild, you've entered the realm of spiritual transformation. So no longer are you in a quick fix state of relationship. And certainly before a quick fix, if we go and use your experience, we're talking about just friendships. So you go from friendships to quick fix spirituality, suddenly all the way up the line to godparent, where there are rights and responsibilities on both sides now. Now we have the divine intervention and ruling and guiding people. Now you're really engaging the spiritual realm at a whole different level. It is extraordinarily different. But before I go a little further on that, we still have the center point. How do you get to the godparent relationship? The second point we have here is the religious counselor relationship.
That's right. Because they're very different. Because not everybody who gets a consultation needs to be a part of this tradition, or wants to be. And I have to say, and some people are not going to like what I'm going to say, but it needs to be said. We're not recruiters of the crusade. We're not Christians.
No.
And this is why, I don't recruit. I do not recruit for this tradition. This is my path. One has to come to me, or it has to be in divine order, because then this is where we get into the prospect of what we talked about before, Oba. There are many priests in not just our tradition, but in many traditions who had no business being made. They should have stayed aleos. That was their path. But because people sell rocks, if you will, it becomes very complicated. So
the whole thing starts getting corrupted.
Indeed, the priesthood is, that's a whole different thing. But yes, do talk about the whole religious counseling thing and how.
This is how we move up the scaling of involvement. I mean, by the time we get into the God-parent relationship, now we're getting, borderline or totally into the priesthood of this faith. That's a whole other ball of wax, isn't it? The thing is, what happens prior to getting to that level, if in fact, for real, the person needs to reach the level of priesthood in this lifetime. And that is not everyone. This is not something where people just simply, based on their free will, say, you know what, I want to sign up and become a priest of this faith. We're dealing with an indigenous religious system where it is the deities themselves that tell you whether or not you are destined to be in the priesthood of this faith. Because maybe you may not be. That may not be your destiny or your fate, if you will, in this material lifetime. Maybe it's something that falls short of priesthood. Maybe it is just simply a religious counselor level or even the first level of quick fix, isn't it? So we have to understand, first and foremost, that we're dealing with three different people, if you will, three different states of approaching and existing within the realm of our religious practice. The second one, of course, is the religious counselor. Now, how does the religious counselor function in its basic form? It usually starts with the quick fix.
You are now off the host queue.
Okay. Usually it's the quick fix. Now, what happens with the quick fix? Well, some people, a small percentage of people in the quick fix level really begin to connect, really begin to understand what they're getting themselves into, and pursue this in a more organized and systemic experience. There's where the priest or the priestess starts becoming your religious mentor, your religious counselor, where there is a more clear understanding of what your spirituality, what your makeup is, and you begin to pursue a path that begins to be transformational. There's something that you're working towards to achieve here. So it's no longer, I have a headache today, drink a medication for the headache to go away, but who needs to understand the cause? No, now the religious counselor is a person that's going to be there for you every time you need her. And is a person that actually takes you in and is really holistically looking at your life and advising you accordingly in a holistic approach. It is no longer a single issue-oriented quick fix approach. Mm-hmm. There, we're starting now to establish a relationship, a real relationship, and not a hit-and-run commercial, if you will, superficial quick fix spirituality, let's play religion for a weekend kind of approach, which is the previous one that I've already talked about. Now we're getting serious about ourselves. And that may grow into something beyond consultations and ritual approaches and stabilizing certain life issues and just simply good character and good advice, where the person is not only engaging rituals in a logical, common sense approach that's beneficial, but also is starting to work on their own human good character and making adjustments or modifications in how they think and what kind of logic, what their worldview is, how they approach their problems, how do they approach repetitive circumstances that always hinder or cause a setback. Now they're learning how to approach those things, to detect them early enough to make the appropriate and get out of the way and not suffer any negativity, because they now they're being able or becoming more and more able to detect negativity as it's forthcoming and knowing how to dodge the bullet before they get hit. So now you have a person there that's really helping you through these kinds of life issues.
Oba, I have someone sent me a question in my PM, and basically they're asking, well, how do you know that Orisha is basically pushing you in that way? I mean, I know what it feels like from a personal standpoint of synchronicity. Mm-hmm. From an Odu standpoint, in a person that basically has no knowledge, they're in a Leo, they don't know anything, mm-hmm. They don't know from up from down, because the priest that's sitting across from them could actually be a person who sells rocks and is really deceiving them and telling them that certain things fall and that Orisha says this, that, and the other, but it could be actually a fugazi, a falsity. So
yeah,
how does that happen?
I'm going to get into in a few more minutes. I'm going to get into the points, right? Mm-hmm. What everyone should be considering.
Okay.
In terms of the guideline, what kinds of questions, how they should be thinking before they even go for a quick fix. Because that's the starting point, the quick fix, every time. So yeah, I am going to describe that. Absolutely, that's the goal of this program. Okay. I just want for everyone to first understand these three levels and the basics of how these three levels function, and then we'll understand better the forthcoming information and how to best make use of the points that I will be presenting to them. Okay. Indeed, first and foremost, I think the essence of the question would be, listen, once you go for a quick fix kind of approach, once you sit before this priest or priestess, they're diviners, and you'll know in very concrete ways how relevant the person is. Orisha says that you're living this and that and that and that, and the reason why you're here is this and that and that and that. And this is a person that's talking to you that really doesn't know anything about your life, has no reference to it, and is being very accurate and very specific. That makes it very tangible to person A when they go for a quick fix. It becomes extraordinarily believable. It's like going to a psychic that doesn't know you, and when you sit there and the psychic starts telling you things about your life that are very deep, very important, very significant, and that there's just no way the psychic could have known. So you know that psychic person is connected to some spiritual source at that moment, because how would they know? Certain things that the person is that's forthcoming in your life, and you don't see this person ever again for a year or two, and boom, whatever they said to you 3-4 years ago happened. And then, this is how this starts becoming very, very tangible. We are in a religious system that I always say, look, we're based on see it to believe it. This is not a blind faith religion. Okay? The people that are in this religion is because over time, over and over and over, in a very consistent way, they have had very concrete and profound experiences that convinces them that there is a supernatural reality at work, that it's not human, that is beyond human capacity. It is that tangibility that becomes convincing. Therefore, over time, the person is not a believer out of faith. The person becomes someone who is convinced of the spiritual reality out of deliverance, out of outright evidence, as matter of fact. That's the difference between what we do if we were to compare it to, if you will, mainstream religion, which you're up front already, entering and sustaining your presence in that belief system outright out of your own human faith. You don't need any tangibles.
That is an excellent point.
You're there out of faith. And that's what differentiates us from mainstream Judeo-Christian religion.
I'm so glad, Omar, that you said that, because this ties into a question that someone asked me about one of the shows that we did previously, and they asked me my opinion about a certain Egun realm. And I said to them, I said, look, this is not just a concept. I have vision. I have, a clairaudience. So I've seen this with my own two eyes. It's not that I am going by the essence of conceptualization and faith. I've seen it with my own being.
And you've seen it over and over and over and over again. It's repetitive.
Indeed. I walk outside of my house and I see the Egun attachments, that are attached to the people walking down the street past me. So this is a concept, of course, but this is something that it's not a faith thing. This is a knowing.
This is a knowing, yes.
Yeah, it's a knowing. It's a very different thing, like you said, in sitting in the pews and having faith and so on and so forth. No, this is a knowing. It's very different. I'm glad you mentioned that.
This is something that becomes irrefutably convincing to the individual because of their life experiences, where it is a constant evidence, a constant deliverance. And you see it not just with your own personal lives, but you're seeing it all around you with other people in their own lives. So it becomes not only an individual, but it becomes also a collective testimony of fact, not just speculative or outright blatant faith as we understand it. I believe it because I want to believe it. No, this is not I believe it because I want to believe it. Here's where you become I am in this because I'm convinced of its reality, because I've seen it over and over and over and over again in my individual life and in the life of others. It becomes that convincing beyond the notion of coincidence. Goes beyond coincidence. Like, for example, someone like myself, I've been practicing for 41 years now. You know how many thousands of people I've consulted that I've divined for?
It's in the thousands, I know.
It's in the thousands. And I can tell you that I can guarantee you that every one of those thousands have been an experience to me, to my own religiosity, to my own spirituality, to my own state of being convinced of its reality. Because I've seen it in so many thousands of cases that I myself are handling, let alone those that I trained with, those that taught me and their experiences as I was there as an apprentice and later on as a disciple. And I've seen that in their lives and in their life work with others. You see? So thousands, yeah, I lost count when it comes to thousands, you see? So as it goes beyond this notion or this potential argument that, which is rather superficial and dismissive. It's not out of coincidence. This is not coincidental. This is a matter of fact. This is here and now. That every time we do a consultation and we say to someone, look, how you doing? You seem everything at work seems like you're secured and everything is fine, is wonderful. Not true. You're going to be fired within 90 days. Something is going to happen where you're going to get fired. And yes, within 90 days, something out of the blue, that unimaginable takes place, and you are fired in 90 days. But you know what? At the same time you said that to that person, you said another 20 things to other 20 different people, and in that same 90-day period.
And what I have missed, or who would I have missed that's become important or instrumental in my life if everything would have been ire?
Ache, honey, Ache, I wouldn't be sitting here with you today if it wasn't for that Osobo. You better work, mother. I wouldn't have been able to meet my twin, Miss Paula of KDCL Media. So I bless the Osobo of my crazy, Yawo life when I was a Yawo many eons ago. It's like this paradox. It was yesterday and it wasn't yesterday, but I'm very grateful. But I'm going to get our elder Oba Ernesto on the line. The telephone is ringing. I know he has his cake and his cafe cubano by his side.
Well, sure he does.
Of course. And I know you're on the line, Oba. Bendición, Oba.
Blessings. My cafe cubano was perfect, actually. With a lot of foam on it. Really delicious.
Wouldn't dare be anything else.
Exactly.
Ready. Now I'm ready for this program now.
Do you have any sweets, Oba? What are the sweets for tonight? Because family, if you guys don't already know, like we have this ritual and we totally tease Oba. It's cafe cubano and it's sweets because we all have a sweet tooth. So every day we know that, when we're talking to Oba, it's going to have, cafe cubano or some type of fabulous sweet that Nivia's Miami Kitchen whipped up. So what's the sweet tonight? What's on the menu?
Well, my Nivea made a wonderful chocolate cake, which I hadn't had for a while.
Nice.
So that'll keep me going between my chocolate cake and the cafe cubano. Hey, I'm ready,
Exactly, and we got the candles blazing, so we.
What? Did you light candles for this program?
All the time.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
Exactly. We got the Egun, candles lit. We got the Orisha candles lit. You know what I'm saying? Family, make sure that you check out the H2ONetwork.weebly.com. That's our website, the H2ONetwork.weebly.com. And also kbclmedia.weebly.com. Also, family, you know that we're percolating on Facebook. So type into your search engine DIANUNEZ. That is me, Dia Nunez. I have two profiles. Friend them both. A lot of things percolating down. Same thing with KDCL Media. Type into your search engine KDCL Media, and you'll be able to find KDCL Media on Facebook along with the HO Network and our fan pages and everything that's percolating as far as CCK, Center for Community Knowledge, which this is the Center for Community Knowledge broadcast this evening on how to select the godparent. Very, very, very much important. And to make sure that you keep up to date with CCK and what's going on, because the HO Network, KDCL Media, and CLBA, Church of the Lukumi Babalu with Oba Ernesto Pichardo in Miami, our beloved elder. We are now under the same umbrella and percolating in the ethers with education and knowledge and all of these things. So along with our profile pages, our fan pages individually as stations, we also have the CCK fan page, the CLBA Community Farm, of course, the Adimu Network, where you can find some nice little delicious delectables for Orisha. And also, family, make sure you keep your eyes on the burner for Media's Miami Kitchen. I tell you, she'd be burning them pots up, y'all. Burning them pots up. Tons of wonderful information and recipes, if you will. And I know I have my sister on the line, Miss Paula from KDCL Media. Hey, girlfriend, how you doing?
Oh, hanging in there. I'm ready to dig up Alexander Graham Bell and strangle him for inventing the telephone today, but other than that, we're good.
And if you're with people that can't help you in that endeavor, you really need to move on. Because let me tell you, the things that I know now, if I knew back then, before I made Ocha, almost a decade ago, honey, I would be in a different place right now. So this is very poignant and important information, to say the least.
Yeah, and you think about you say things like that, and it's like, okay, but what would I have missed if I did it different? That's always
that's very, well, what? It's funny you say that because it's very interesting that you say that, and you make a very poignant point. there's also another aspect of the pie, the osobo that I experienced as a yawo and as a priest dealing with the iworo and individuals and their craziness. Actually, it is actually elevated my consciousness. It's elevated in the way I perceive certain things. And if you don't take the side of victim, if you will, it actually is a good opportunity to teach you about the psychology of people, the psychology of yourself, what you're seeking as far as a student. It's like almost like this being the sorcerer's apprentice, you know, that movie with Nicolas Cage. And, you know what I'm saying? I mean, literally, it's like almost, you know, you're doing your Harry Potter thing, trying to find a good mentor and things of this nature. All of these things are very important. The bad, we have to remember that the osobo that we experience in this tradition when it comes to mentors is also it's also an ide. It's like a paradox because it can teach you a lot about many things if your heart is open and you're willing to actually see. So
yeah, it really is. It's a double-edged sword. It's like, you know, while you're sitting there beating your chest and, you know, tearing your hair out over the osobo, you have to stop and think about, well, what am I learning? And
I hear you, girlfriend. I hear you. It's been, I have to say this, since 2012, since the beginning. Why? I shouldn't even say even with 2012, since the beginning of last year. We've been so darn busy. It's not even funny. But this is all wonderful and good because we're, you know, we're being the conduits for our elders all across the country, across the world, not just with Obar and S.O.B. Charlo, but with artists, with musicians, with authors. I mean, we're really crazy right now. But it's all good. These are all beautiful things. And I think tonight's show, Miss Paula, is probably one of the most important shows that we've ever done, how to select a godparent.
Yeah, absolutely, because, I mean, that's like the biggest stumbling block in the world for anybody that's interested in this tradition, you know, unless you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody.
Absolutely, and even the information that's being given this evening actually goes beyond our tradition. It's basically how to select an elder and a godparent in any tradition because, you know, we always talk about Iwapele and certain characteristics and things of this nature. And, you know, as we're percolating in this reality, 2012 and beyond, more information is coming out. More people are taking their studies, their metaphysical, ritualistic type of studies very seriously. And you really have to have an elder that matches your personality, what you're seeking. You really have to map out what your expectations are for a godparent, what their expectations are. And if that doesn't map out, then you need to move on and keep it moving because this is your consciousness you're dealing with and you're molding and you're trying to grow.
KDCL Media, the pride of Internet radio for Deep Creek Lake, Garrett County, Maryland, and the world.
Consciousness. It's like the ocean. The H2O network, purveyors of passion, seeking to expand human consciousness from the deep depths of the universe of your soul.
Greetings, family, and welcome to After Dark with the H2O Network and KDCL Media, the pride of Internet radio. I welcome everybody in the chat room, everybody on the phone lines, and to everyone who will be listening to this via the archives later on. Family, make sure that you check out the H2O Network and the KDCL Media profile page on Blog Talk Radio. You can download us via iTunes and take us anywhere you go. So if you go to the profile page, you have an RSS feed and an iTunes button. Click that iTunes button, and you can take us on the go. Also, family, if you're a part of our Facebook networks, you can also click on the particular show, that link, click on the link, and under the play button you have 3 options, and one of them is to download any particular show. So you can download these shows individually as well. Also,